These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
The year? 1966. The Starship Enterprise blasted off with Sulu on board.
You are Lieutenant Sulu. You were born on the planet Earth. You're helmsman for the Enterprise.
It will launch George Takei into a different stratosphere as an actor, but also as an activist for Japanese Americans and LGBTQ issues. Along the way, he's cultivated a huge fan following and become a social media star with millions of followers online.
Oh my.
But George Takei is also a kid from L.A. with an unusual history. Takei grew up in Boyle Heights, the oldest son of hardworking immigrants. It was a happy childhood until this, the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. The Takeis lost their home, their business, their freedom, spending several years at two internment camps, one in Arkansas and then the infamous Tulelake in Northern California. He spent a lifetime remembering so others won't forget.
We know about our history, Japanese Americans. It's all Americans who have to know about this.
As far as I can remember, I've always been me.
Takei has never taken himself seriously, appearing in a lighthearted documentary about his life, meeting millions of fans at Star Trek conventions, but his causes he does take seriously, including his latest, the musical Allegiance.
Mountain can be moved, stone by stone.
It's his own story, and the stories of thousands of other Japanese Americans who lived through those difficult days in American history. George Takei, our guest for this entire half hour. Fox 11 News in Depth starts right now. Good morning. Welcome to Fox 11 News in Depth. I'm Hal Eisner, and here is the man, the myth, the legend, George Takei. And you know, we're spending the entire half hour with you. Let's just tell everybody right off the bat, you're a very young 80 years old, but you've got the energy, it seems, of somebody who's about 28. And I want to hear those two words from that Howard Stern made famous. What are they?
Oh my.
Oh my. Well, it's so nice to have you here. And, you know, there's so much about your life that's interesting and interesting to everybody and me. You know, I've known you a long time. We go way back. And we've done stories over the years about your family, about your entertainment career. This play you have out there, which actually ends tonight, is Allegiance. That sets up the notion of what you had to deal with as a child, the things that sort of created the tone for you and the activism that you started to portray and purvey. What happened, for those who may not know, back in 1941?
December 7th, 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. We are Americans. My grandparents came from Japan. My mother was born in Sacramento. My father was a San Franciscan. They met and married in Los Angeles, and my brother and sister and I were born here. And yet, overnight, because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and we looked like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor, with no charges, with no trial, the central pillar of our justice system, due process, simply disappeared. The soldiers came to our home and ordered us out at gunpoint, and we were imprisoned for the duration of the war. Innocent people, innocent American citizens, incarcerated because of war hysteria and racism.
Now, much of that is portrayed in this play. Thursday night, I saw your play Allegiance, which has its last performance, as I said, tonight at the Aratani Theater in Little Tokyo. I know this was a real labor of love for you. I know that this story is powerful. I laughed. I cried. You made me cry. And the music was very, very touching. Let's listen to a sample of that right now. You know, this production really explains a lot. I can't say that I learned about the Japanese internment camps in school.
Japanese American.
American internment camps.
Japanese
Thank you for the
internment
clarification.
camps were run by Japan.
It was Japanese American internment camps.
And the U.S. government ran ours in the U.S.
Right. And not that I learned anything really about it in school. I really learned a lot more about it from you. But this was a period of time that maybe a lot of people don't know about now. The characters that are portrayed in this production that were real life characters. And tell me, what is it about this play that you hope every single person that goes in to see it will walk out thinking?
Well, throughout my life, I've been surprised, to put it mildly, by people that I consider well-read, well-informed people, usually east of the Rockies. When I tell people about my childhood imprisonment by the U.S. government, they're shocked, they're astounded, they knew nothing about it. And this troubles me very much because this is a chapter of American history. Our Constitution was egregiously violated, and more Americans need to know about that chapter of American history so that we don't repeat that kind of violation. The chilling thing is our musical Allegiance is so palpably relevant to our times today in the year 2018, when the same broad brush that characterized us 76 years ago as enemy aliens is being used to characterize people of the Muslim faith as potential terrorists, or immigrants coming from south of the border as rapists, murderer, and criminals.
And these are the things that trouble you, I know very much. Your life changed when the federal government issued that Executive Order 9066. It was signed by President Roosevelt, sending tens of thousands of Japanese Americans to detention camps across the western states, from California to Colorado, as far away as Arkansas. That's where the Takei family ended up for the first 2 years, the Rower Camp in Arkansas. Let me read you this memory that you wrote in a New York Times op-ed. Quote, George Takei, I remember every school morning reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, my eyes upon the stars and stripes of the flag, but at the same time I could see from the window the barbed wire and the sentry towers where guards kept guns trained on us. That's still in your head at the age of 80, isn't it?
It certainly is. At that time, I was a child, and so I just repeated the words that the teacher taught me. But now, and as an adult, I recognize the irony, the stinging irony of my reciting the words liberty and justice for all while being imprisoned by the United States government.
This is an extraordinary story. We're going to keep talking to George after the break. Eventually, the family, though, was moved to Tulelake internment camp in Northern California because George's parents refused to sign a loyalty pledge out of principle. And Tulelake, a very different kind of place.
Oh, yes. It was a harsher place. In fact, that was called a segregation camp. It was a camp. Tulelake was the biggest and the harshest of all 10 camps. 18,000 people, when the other camps held like 8,000, 10,000, 12,000. 18,000 people who had been goaded into outrage by a relentless series of insults, hurts, of debasement by the U.S. government. I mean, to have the government take everything from you, impoverish you, and imprison you while you're innocent, totally innocent, because of the hysteria and the racism of the time.
So much of that played out in your play. Still ahead, we'll have more with George Takei, including a look back on his long career. That includes Star Trek, for all you fans like me.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, my.
Oh, my, indeed.
It's the Star Trek episode Sulu fans love. Sulu and the other cast members contract a disease that makes them do all kinds of crazy things they've always dreamed of. In Sulu's case, he becomes a 17th century swashbuckler. And George, you loved that show, didn't you?
My favorite from the TV series. At long last, I got unchained from that damn console. Got a chance to whip off my shirt and terrorize the ship with that fencing foil.
You know, as I think back to the Star Trek legacy, which really, Star Trek was only on for a few years, actually.
3 years, three seasons.
But it seems like it has endured better than almost anything except maybe I Love Lucy.
And Lucy was the one who produced the show. It was a Desilu project
At the time, right?
Before Paramount took over. So
and your relationship with William Shatner and these other folks like Leonard Nimoy, it was close? Were you pretty close with these guys?
One of the gifts that Star Trek has given me, and a great gift, was that most of my work colleagues have become my personal friends, lifelong friends. Nichelle came to see Allegiance in New York,
right.
And then she came to the Los Angeles production as well. When Brad and I got married, Walter we wanted to embrace
Walter Koenig.
Yeah, the diversity of the show, as well as the diversity of America in our wedding party. And so Walter was our best man. We asked Nichelle to be our matron of honor. But Nichelle said, I am not a matron. If Walter can be the best man, why can't I be the best lady? And we said, of course you are.
Of course.
Will you be our best lady? And she deigned to be our best lady.
One of the things we talk about sometimes with Nichelle is that she really broke the color barrier back then. And you equally did something very similar.
Yeah, because, she's African American, but she's also of French heritage and Cherokee. So she's the most American one of us all, Native American. But we've been saddled with racial stereotypes. African American women as maids and servants and so forth.
Lower characters,
right,
instead of lead characters.
And same thing with Asian Americans as servants or buffoons or the villain,
Right.
For the first time, we were able to be top-notch people in a top-notch, first-class futuristic spaceship.
And you were every bit of that, and then you became a captain later on. Absolutely.
Only one of that original cast that went on to become the captain of his own starship.
We're going to hang on to you here. Still ahead, we'll get a little personal, talk more about George's support for the LGBTQ movement coming up after this. Welcome back to Fox 11 News in Depth. In 2012, then Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa honored George Takei, calling him a treasure, and gave him the Hope of Los Angeles Award. Back now with George Takei, who has put LGBTQ issues right front and center. I want to go back to a time when you first came out of the closet. When was that, and how did you get to the issues of same-sex marriage?
Well, I was in the closet for all my life until 2005 because I wanted my career, and I knew I couldn't have my career as an actor if it was known that I was gay. But something extraordinary happened in 2005. For the first time in the United States, a state legislature, the California House, Assembly and the Senate, passed the Marriage Equality Bill. This was a landmark event passed by the people's representative. All it needed was one more signature, the signature of our governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who campaigned by saying, I'm a friend of the LGBT people. I'm from Hollywood. I've worked with LGBT people. I thought he would sign it. But when he played to his right-wing constituency and vetoed it, I was raging. And that rage and discussing this with Brad, with whom I'd been together with for 20 years.
Now, we're looking at wedding pictures at the moment. Brad Altman, you met back in...
I met in the early 80s.
80s. And then you got married in...
In 2008.
And this was a very significant milestone for both of you. I know Brad as well. And you've been married now for...
Married for 10 years. This will be the 2018, so 10 years.
10 years.
But we've been together for 31 years now.
Quite a relationship?
We're still together. We're both happy, and we are partners for life.
Well, that's
husbands
nice.
and husband.
That's nice. George, just what would you say to people out there that were in your position, that have sexual conflicts? You want to share a thought?
Well, I was closeted because of the times. This is a different time now. It is, we got married in 2008, and in 2015, marriage equality spread throughout the country, from border to border, from coast to coast. We've made tremendous progress, but now we have a retrograde president, and we are moving backwards. We got rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but now Trump has banned transgender people, or tried to ban transgender people from military service. So we're going backwards.
Going back. I've got to take a break here. Still ahead, though, I've got a little surprise for George, a story that we worked on together many, many years ago. We both looked a lot different then, or should I say we look a lot different now, right?
We both look different from those days.
Here's my connection to Star Trek's universe. I once played a Bajoran on the show Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That's me in the middle, sitting at the table with the other extras. And now this photo, where they turn my nose for news into that for the character. Looks kind of like a washboard, doesn't it, George? What do you make of that?
Driver's license photo.
Yeah, right. with a wrinkled nose, too. It was great. You know, Bajoran, I was a refugee. I wore robes. I had an earring. I had a washboard nose.
How did it feel?
Oh, my.
It was an oh, my.
It was an oh, my.
I'm sure people said oh, my when they saw you.
They certainly did. There's just so much about this field that you're in that's so amazing, and you've been so successful at it. George and I go so far back. We've been friends for many years. He even helped out when I did a story a long time ago on what it takes to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. George, let's see if you remember this one. Hollywood Boulevard, the Walk of Fame. Stars you know and
some you don't even recognize.
Who work behind the scenes. You've seen it, but have you felt it? Walking along, checking out the stars, flashing back to the sound of their voices.
We'll be coming up with the lineup right after this.
Hey, with the monkeys.
George Takei.
Hey, you.
Me?
You, Hal Eisner.
What is this?
You belong here on the sidewalk of Hollywood. You should have a star on Hollywood Boulevard.
Does anyone else think that? I don't know. Do you think I'm ready?
You might be.
I'm not famous like Tom Hanks or Harrison Ford.
Who's Hal Eisner?
Can anyone get one of these things? I went to the man who knows, Hollywood's honorary mayor, Johnny Grant. What would it take for me to get a star?
Well, you qualify, I can tell you that, because the criteria is professional achievement, longevity of 5 years.
That means before I can even be considered for a star, I have to have been in radio, TV, movies, live theater, or the recording industry for at least 5 years.
You've been on TV for over 2 decades.
Somebody has to nominate you.
Somebody has to nominate me.
Yeah, like your station or somebody like that.
Guess who I picked? The man from Star Trek.
You got me into this. You sponsor me?
With honor. And great pleasure.
How much is it?
15.
15 what? $15?
No, 15,000.
$15,000.
Well, you have to tear up the sidewalk, make the stars.
And of course, there's the cost of the fancy ceremony like George had back in 1986.
You know, it's kind of appropriate on this extravagant boulevard.
In Takei's case, his fan club paid for it, but to this actor, it's a price worth paying. Oh, sure, people walk on it.
People spit on it, people put gum on it, and God knows what dogs do to it.
But to him, it's absolutely worth it.
Hooray for Hollywood!
Hooray for Hollywood. That was a lot of fun back then. You know, obviously it's been a long time since we did that.
It has been, but it's been there for a long time
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And it is a kind of a attraction for what makes Hollywood unique.
Yeah, Hollywood, there's just so much about Hollywood, and you're a byproduct of it. But it does strike me as interesting that when you were coming up and your dad was concerned about you being an actor, and you know, you were going to prove to him that you were going to make it and that you could get all the roles in the world and make new ones, and you've done that.
You know, when I had those discussions with my father, he loved me very much, and he was looking out for me, and he said, look at what's on TV and in the movies. They're stereotypes. Is that what you want to be doing? And I said, Daddy, I'm going to change it. I am going to change it.
He'd be proud of you today, wouldn't he?
I was lucky. I met Gene Roddenberry, who had that vision of a world where diversity is a strength, and working together, that makes the that planet that much stronger. And so that luck plays a big part in everything in life, and particularly in show business.
And as I was mentioning, I'm sure your dad would be very proud of you. I know, you know, everybody associated with you is. And
did you know my dad wrote a fan letter when Star Trek was about to be canceled, the second season? I was so touched by that.
You know, it's stuff like that really means family. Look, let's end the show this way. You ready, George? Here we go. Everybody, live long and prosper. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. George, thanks so much. Have a great week, everybody.